Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 35 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome aboard, and if you've been a loyal listener, welcome back. We have much to get to today and not a lot of time to do it. We have 5 sections that we'll get into: a general overview of the NBA this week, and our usual highlight, lowlight, and random stat, and we'll wrap things up with a special section. Let's get to our content for the week. The NBA community lost another legend this week. LA Lakers legend and Hall of Famer Jerry West died on Wednesday at 86. West was the second pick in the 1960 draft back when the Lakers were in Minneapolis. He played his entire career with the Lakers until his retirement in 1974. West transitioned to coach the Lakers from 1976 to 79. Some of his greatest accomplishments include being the only player to earn Finals MVP on the losing team and being the silhouette of the NBA logo. He won a title in 1972, was a 14-time All-Star, a 10-time All-NBA first-teamer. He has his number 44 retired by LA and West Virginia University, and he's a member of the 35th, 50th, and 75th anniversary teams. West also won 8 titles either as an executive board member or general manager. The Lakers won 6 more rings under his watch, and he won 2 more with Golden State during their dynasty in the mid-2010s. Most recently with the Clippers, West was instrumental in bringing Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to LA. Rest in peace. After Game 4 of the NBA Finals on Friday, former player and current TNT broadcaster Charles Barkley announced that he is retiring at the end of next season. He has been on TV since 2000. For years, Barkley has made up 1/4 of the Inside the NBA quartet, which also features Ernie Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kenny Smith. The NBA is trying to negotiate new media rights deals. Networks like Disney, Amazon, and NBC are all fighting for the rights. Inside the NBA could be a casualty of this bidding war. As of 2024, the show has won 19 Sports Emmy Awards. No matter what happens with the media war, Barkley's absence will definitely be felt on air. After 5 games of the NBA Finals, the Boston Celtics came out victorious over the Dallas Mavericks. This 18th championship is an NBA record, and it breaks their tie of 17 with the LA Lakers. Jaylen Brown was named the Bill Russell Finals MVP. This episode is entitled Class Dismissed, and the title of this episode has a certain meaning behind it. So I follow my former high school band teacher on Instagram, and every year on the last day of school, he posts a picture of his empty band room with the caption, Class Dismissed. So for one final time this season, who's raising eyebrows at the moment? If you remember from last week's episode, I said if the finals went to 4 or 5 games, that this would be the final episode of the season. If the Mavericks wanted to make it interesting and go to 6 or 7 games, then next week would be the final episode of the season. With the finals wrapping up in 5 games, this is the final episode of Diehlman at Halftime for this season. Let's go to our highlight, the Boston Celtics. And with that, Boston is finally going to raise their 18th banner. The Boston Celtics took care of business at home on Monday, 106-88. After a blowout Game 4 loss in Dallas, a game where the starters were pulled in the third quarter, the Celtics regrouped and pulled away in Game 5. It all starts with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Tatum, who almost had 2 triple-doubles in this series, averaged 22.2 points, about 8 rebounds, and 7.2 assists against Dallas. Brown dropped 20.8 points, about 5.5 rebounds, and 5 assists per night. At 35 years old, Joe Mazzulla is now the youngest head coach to win an NBA championship since Celtics legend Bill Russell did it in 1969 as a player coach. Yes, he was a player and the head coach at the same time. Boston also took a huge risk by acquiring Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis over the summer. They traded Malcolm Brogdon, who had just won 6th Man of the Year, Marcus Smart, a longtime Celtic and the Defensive Player of the Year 2 seasons ago, and Robert Williams III. Nonetheless, Boston's firepower was too much for teams to handle this year. They were the heavy favorite all along. They earned 64 wins in the regular season and steamrolled over the Eastern Conference playoff teams. Boston has a good lineup, good depth, and good coaching. As the offseason begins, we now have to ask, is this team good enough to go back-to-back? Let's go to our low light, the Dallas Mavericks. I think I speak for most NBA fans when I say that no one expected the Dallas Mavericks to get this far. Unfortunately for them, they had the pleasure of running into the Boston juggernaut. I may have also jinxed them 2 weeks ago by saying Mavericks in 6. My bad. Luka Doncic averaging 29.2 points and 8.8 rebounds in this series wasn't enough. Doncic and Kyrie Irving can lead you for a while, but they're eventually going to need help along the way. Put simply, your supporting cast needs to, support. P.J. Washington was a disappearing act at times. Maxi Kleber and Tim Hardaway Jr. should have been nowhere near the court in this series. The blame, however, doesn't exclude the Mavericks' dynamic duo. Doncic did plenty of complaining to the refs early in the series, and he fouled out in a tightly contested Game 3. Irving, who averaged 25 points per game this season, had 3 games in the finals of 16 points or less. Although coaches shrink the bench when the lights shine the brightest, you can't leave your stars to complete the job themselves. I have a feeling that the Mavericks will be among the favorites to come out of the West next year. They were the 5th seed, and they upset the top-seeded Thunder and the red-hot Timberwolves. Now it's just a matter of getting back to work in the summer. Let's go over to our random stat. Last week, we did a Game of the Week predictions review. I went over all of my Game of the Week predictions from this season and did a tally of how many I got correct. For our final random stat of the 2023-24 season, let's review my playoff bracket. This includes the play-in tournament, the winning team in each series, the number of games, and the NBA Finals. My original Finals prediction back in April was Celtics over Nuggets in 7. At least I got the winner right. I predicted 7 of the 8 teams that made the conference semifinals. The lone exception was taking the Sixers over the Knicks. In terms of an actual series, I correctly predicted 4 series in the first round. Nuggets in 5 over the Lakers, Mavericks in 6 over the Clippers, Celtics in 5 over the Heat, and Pacers in 6 over the Bucks. I got Celtics in 5 over the Cavaliers in the second round. My bracket was mostly busted after the second round. Out of my 4 conference finals teams, only Boston made it successfully. In total, I had 22 correct predictions and 14 incorrect out of 36 total, a winning percentage of 61.1%. I was not expecting Denver, last year's champion, to lose in the second round to Minnesota's young squad. No one was expecting the Pacers to make a run at the Eastern Conference Finals. Whether you liked it or not, Boston was making the finals regardless. Overall, I'm happy with my playoff bracket and Game of the Week predictions. For the past 2 episodes, you may have noticed that Game of the Week has been eliminated. We've been in the NBA Finals portion of the season, and most of what there was to say was talked about in the highlight and lowlight sections. You may have also heard earlier in this episode that there was a special section to wrap things up. When I was writing my Diehlman at Halftime column in college, I would end the final article of each season with a section I called Note from the Author, and that's what you're going to hear right now. We have come to the end of the inaugural season of Diehlman at Halftime. First, I'd like to thank the guests we had on the podcast. Chris DiPietro, our first guest and someone who made multiple appearances, Aaron Hook, Jack Miller, Danny Ryan, Nick Earnshaw, and Kai Carlin. The commentary these gentlemen provided was a nice balance to the normal content we do on Diehlman at Halftime. I already have a few names in mind for Season 2. I'd also like to thank the listeners. Without your support, I would just be a guy with a microphone talking to himself. Going from an NBA column in college to a post-college podcast was an interesting transition, but definitely one that was worth it. The NBA draft and free agency are approaching over the next few weeks, so get ready for some more off-season excitement. We'll start back up in mid-October with our power rankings predictions, so be on the lookout for updates, as well as a potential update on the podcasting platform. Until then, have a great summer, and see you in the fall. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me on social media. I have 2 Twitter accounts and 2 Instagram accounts. The podcast accounts are under @Diehlman_NBA for both Twitter and Instagram. My personal Twitter is @LarryDiehlman18, and my personal Instagram is @Mr_Sports18. They are also in the description on SoundCloud. And don't forget to spread the word about Diehlman at Halftime. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans, and class dismissed.